Okay, we're now on the Philippine-China focus, and we invited Professor Celso Cainglet, our international relations expert, international relations ethics, or ethics of international relations, because he presented certain aspects in the discussion at the Kamuning press conference with Ambassador Encomienda, Senator Tantan, the former UP President Dong Nemenzo, Butch Valdez. Did I miss anyone? Tata, I mentioned, Encomienda, I mentioned, and others. No? And the younger fellows are Vince Cifra of the Duterte campaign and so on. And of course, the lady who represents the finance department, Alvarez, you know, the daughter of Pantaleon Alvarez, the new Speaker of Congress. But you mentioned the many procedures that the Philippines has not complied with in its maritime claims. Please.
Well, you know, because every day you can hear from media a lot of disinformation and misconception. Like you can hear that this is our territory, we have sovereign rights over this area, and China has grabbed it. In the first place, maritime law is very, very technical. It's tragic that we are a maritime country, but you can count with your fingers lawyers who comprehend maritime law. Even our law schools are so land-based in their orientation. Let me be brief with my points. I have 3 points. No? First of all, these so-called territorial waters, what we have there is sovereign rights and not sovereignty. Sovereignty only applies to land. When you say sovereign rights, it's only limited to fishing and other resources available in the area, especially in the seabed. No? But even that is not absolute because of the doctrine that the sea is the common heritage of mankind. No? For that to be absolute, no, UNCLOS, which we ratified in 1984, have several provisions. One of them is that we have to submit the volume of fish to the Pacific Fishing Council. The moment the Council has determined that we have reached our maximum sustainable yield, only then that it will be elevated to the UN. Only then that UN will grant us our absolute fishing rights or sovereign rights in that area. That is supposed to be the work of BIFAR. But we never submitted the volume of fish. Although recently I was told that BIFAR submitted the volume of fish 2 years ago. But we ratified UNCLOS in 1984. That was 30 years ago. Why just 2 years ago? If ever that is true, because I have not verified it yet. Number 2, no, we always talk of the 200 nautical miles EEZ, Exclusive Economic Zone. But where is that? Nobody knows where is that. Why? Because you don't plot your territories on paper. You have to do actual survey. It's a very technical work. No? Where is your baseline? What is your angle of trajectory? That is supposed to be the work of NAMRIA. And it takes time. Japan
What's NAMRIA?
National Mapping Resource Information Authority.
Okay.
You know, Japan took them more than 20 years to do the survey. And the adjudication process is very, very tedious and bloody and long also. After the survey, you submit your technical data to the International Maritime Organization, IMO, where the adjudication takes place. After challenges and hearings, only then that the IMO will elevate it to the United Nations. Afterwards, the United Nations will define your 200 nauticals EEZ. We never did the survey. No, it's like you're complaining that the kids of your neighbors are playing at your backyard. Then your neighbors ask you, where are your markers or mohon to prove that that is your backyard? And there's nothing you can show. And what is embarrassing, many of our politicians are talking their mouth off without doing their homework. And hence putting us in a very embarrassing position in the international community. Third point, you know, everybody is anticipating, banking on the decision that the Hague Tribunal will promulgate. No? Even if Hague will decide in favor of the Philippines, it will have no bearing. Why? Because it will still depend upon the two nations to settle their dispute. Hague will never send troops to enforce the decision. Just like recently in the territorial dispute over Thailand and Cambodia over Previer Temple. The Hague decided in favor of Cambodia, but still it would depend upon Cambodia and Thailand to settle the dispute. Good thing that Thailand honored the decision. In the first place, I did not agree that we brought the matter to Hague. You know, we should have talked it over.
Because in the end,
You have to talk it
you have
over.
to talk it over also.
Actually, that's a provision of UNCLOS. If there are overlapping territories,
And
the two nations would have to discuss
I
cooperation.
wonder if you're familiar with the declaration of the Code of Conduct? Or,
Not yet.
yeah.
Not yet. Yeah.
But,
I mean, no such declaration was agreed yet.
So, you have any reaction?
Yeah, I agree to it. I think that they should also, you know, do the necessary steps as well. Same thing as what Professor Celso said. They can't just keep on, you know, complaining about it. And I'm afraid that it might. I mean, right now, the One Belt, One Road, we're already not part of it. And I think that this is one of the reasons why as well.
Well, during... yeah, go ahead.
And if I may add to that, let's say for argument's sake, let's say for example that Hague decided in favor of the Philippines, it will be a Pyrrhic victory, as what Ambassador Joe Romero has said. But its long-term effect will be disastrous, especially in terms of economy. China may get back at us through economic sanctions.
But I think that has seemingly been negated by the openness that Duterte seems to be showing, although he's balancing the two pressures from the U.S. and the concerns of China. He has announced that he will send his Department of Transport and Communications Secretary as soon as he can to China to discuss the railway dreams of Duterte for Mindanao and for the country. I think such actions, if it comes into fruition, will gradually make these controversies irrelevant. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good start. Let's talk about business. And because actually the protest has been there for the past 30 years. But one thing with the Chinese culture, there's something official, there's something unofficial. Officially, there was protest, there was dispute. But unofficially, trading was going on. Our fishermen were fishing there until the Aquino administration made everything official. You know? Like, for example, Taiwan and China, there's a dispute, but the trading is very robust between the two countries. You know?
And, well, I recall Ambassador Encomienda saying that the Philippines, although we keep hearing this from Justice Carpio, saying that we are just fed up with the constant talks and no results. But Ambassador Encomienda clearly said, and he has been there in the entire process from the very beginning, we have never had any call for talks on the arbitration.
Yeah.
And the Philippine government under Noy never informed China first that they were going to file arbitration.
Yeah.
They learned it from the newspapers and so on. So ethically, what is the proper thing to do, and what is the proper reaction to this?
Well, you know, actually, it's funny because China's position is bilateral. In fact, the Philippines should be honored with that invitation, because bilateral means that the other country recognizes your sovereignty, you know, your dignity. But I think it's the Filipino mentality that if you go to a fight, you need allies, you know. So the Filipinos want multilateral, you know.
But I would not say the Filipinos, maybe the Noy administration.
Yes,
because,
okay.
You have Ambassador Encomienda that does not agree with that policy, or Joe Romero, no? Ambassador Joe Romero.
Furthermore, we should not look at this as a fight. No, that we're going to the discussion table as a fight. No. We should look at this as an opportunity for friendly discussion to talk things over and how we can progress.
Well,
because whether we like it or not, China is our neighbor.
Well,
they're there to stay.
Rad Kapunan makes a very, I think, telling point when he says, when China offered talks, China was also ready to offer a package.
Yes.
We didn't listen to it so far, you know, because you would not offer a talk if you're not ready to exchange, well, to have an exchange of offers, right? But once the talks were scuttled and it was internationalized, which China really abhorred, because it's between two states, sovereign states. You talk, you don't refer it to a referee. And as you said, and others say, the offer of talks is a respect.
Yes.
And a small nation can have more leverage in such a talk, because if you're unhappy and you feel that, and you can demonstrate that there was some unfairness, then you can report this to the world. But we never even tried that.
Yeah. Besides, in the Chinese culture, as much as possible, you don't sue your neighbor. You talk things over. But then or you can call uncle, no, to mediate.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, now you have some experience there in China. What do you
Yes, that's true.
think?
I agree with what Professor Celso said. The way they do it there is usually they have a mediator and they talk things through. They do not publicize it, and that's what we did. We publicized it.
Yeah. And you know, the worst part is they learned about this case from the media and not
Yes.
from the other party that they were trying to address. So where do we move from here? Of course, Duterte is giving some good signs. What else can we add to maybe Duterte's considerations?
Well, you know, most of the when the Chinese ambassador went to visit Duterte, immediately, you know, the harassment of our fishermen with the Chinese 5 dragons ceased. You know? But now you see propagandas again in the newspaper that they're being harassed again. You know.
Well, that is particularly important at this time because, as I was explaining earlier, almost every day you see pictures of American aircraft carriers, jets, and so on, as if they're actually in the vicinity. There was an exercise in the Philippine Sea, which is to the east of the Philippines, and you have the Philippine Islands, our islands, in between the China Sea and the Philippine Sea. So, you know, actually the Americans are avoiding a confrontation because in the 1990s, during the crisis on the Taiwan Straits, the 7th Fleet went straight to the Taiwan Straits. Now they cannot do that, you know. Anyway, the point is, our Philippine media has been stoking all these every day, aircraft carrier pictures, jets, and so on, and then now to this report about harassment. I reviewed the newspaper items. They're citing April incidents, and the latest is June 7. Well,
because there's really a deliberate attempt, no, and millions of dollars are involved in media operation to demonize China.
Yeah. Well, we also have a whole generation of media people educated under the journalist scholarships and so on in the U.S.
You know what I suggest, since next week Duterte is assuming office, and the Hague is expected to come up with a decision as early as July
7. This is being voted
latest
about.
as maybe January by next year.
Next year.
What I suggest is for the Duterte's administration to drop the charges at the Hague
and start talks. Yeah, and of course, Ambassador Encomienda has stressed the point that the people like Carpio keep saying, the decision is coming out next week, next week, as if leading the public along. Anything to add? Wala mo na. Okay. So, Duterte is giving good signs, so we can be hopeful there.
Yeah.
And in between that, I think our responsibility in media is to keep trying to balance the picture, and real life stories like stories from the 2 years experience of Jean.
And you know, China is actually extending their hands to us. You know, I myself, I've been around Southeast Asia recently, and I have seen how much China has really poured their resources and exerted efforts to develop their neighbors. I mean, look at America; they never did any effort to develop their neighbors, especially the South. You know, but here you have China extending their hands to us, helping develop their neighbors. You know.
Well, I engaged in a discussion with one of our scholars in the University of the Philippines who says the small countries like the Philippines need ASEAN as a leverage. But I reviewed our experience with ASEAN, and it seems the Philippines always gets the raw end of the deals. Thailand has the pickup vehicle manufacturing and assembly projects. Malaysia still has its automotive industry and so on and so forth. The Philippines supplies DH in Singapore and Malaysia. And then I recall also in the Asian financial crisis in 1997-98, the policies upon which ASEAN is founded, economic and financial policies, which is liberalization and free trade and so on, did not serve the countries well. And the country that survived that was Malaysia, because they instituted mercantilist policies, imposed currency and capital controls, stabilized the ringgit, and got the ire of George Soros and the Western powers. Hong Kong did the same, intervened in the stock market and burned the hands of George Soros and the speculators. From the corporate and business perspective, is ASEAN helpful to us? Maybe I'd wonder if in your course if you had discussions on this?
Usually when we tackle ASEAN, it's more of like the 10 countries.
Yeah.
But all the countries, they have different cultures, they have different economic developments.
Yes.
So it's still very diverse as a whole.
And also culturally.
Yes,
The
exactly.
Philippines is the only real Christian country, then you have mostly Muslim, and then you have Buddhist Thailand.
And many ASEAN countries look at us as an extension of America.
Yeah,
no?
that's a problem.
And, you know, many ASEAN countries frown on America's intervention in this region.
Well, many in our Philippine press and in our diplomatic corps, and you can also hear that from Justice Carpio, Alunan, etc., that it is the small countries of Laos and Cambodia, dependent on China, that is dividing ASEAN. But the other view is also that, and most ASEAN countries view it this way, that the Philippines is becoming an instrument to divide ASEAN, because the ASEAN's fundamental agreement is consensus.
Yes.
You do not favor one country's interest against others and say the others are being used or dividing. You must have consensus, and you must keep quiet if there is no consensus, right?
And many ASEAN countries have are embedded with Confucian culture, and that is the strive for harmony with fellow men, with nature, you know. Unlike the Western Aristotelian culture of dissecting everything, you know.
Okay, and of course, the previous Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Albert Del Rosario, cannot be considered Asian because he's an American green card holder at the very minimum. But we're running out of time. Sige, go ahead.
As a student of philosophy, Kamentong, I will try to transcend the issue. No? What I see here is that the West is in decline. There's a shift of prosperity to the East. And America is uncomfortable with that because they want to maintain their global hegemony. And like a dying man, they will bite and scratch just to remain alive. You know, it's ASEAN time, Asia's time. Asia's time has come, and China is taking the lead.
And Asia, of course, is India and China. And China, I think, has been balancing its approach to the U.S., being tough where it is needed, and being very friendly and business oriented in the U.S. itself. You know, ladies first and last. Jean?
Yes, I agree. I think that Asia right now is the one that's rising, the rising economy. That's actually why I chose this MBA program, because it has the best of both worlds when it comes to Asia. So I think the best way is really through collaborations of all the countries, and we have to really go with participate also in that One Belt, One Road, and it's a good way for our economic development as well.
Okay, thank you to both of you, and thank you to our audience for sailing with us again this week around the world and around Asia on issues and concerns of our people, of the Philippines, and of the entire global community. Maraming salamat po, and until our next journey next week.